Hello and welcome back to another episode of the For the Property Investor podcast. And we're here with the weekly news, of course, because if this guy, Nick Bendel, wasn't here, we wouldn't be talking about the news. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Owen. Great to be here. I loved your introduction. I would say 85% of it made sense, and that's all we can ask for.
Yes, well, as they say, 80%. Progress is more important than perfection. So, call me Mr. 85%.
I will. I think at the start of the year, you were tracking at about 45%. So that's definite progress.
Yes, there you go. Thanks for that, I think. Yeah, I don't know. But what have you been up to the last week?
Oh, I had a wonderful week. I have a business, Hunter and Scribe, which writes content for finance and property professionals throughout Australia. We work with dozens of mortgage brokers. So I like to go to all the mortgage broking conferences. And a few days ago, I attended the FBAA conference on the Gold Coast and had a really good time. There were some very good presentations and I spoke to a lot of brokers. I really enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to going again next year. I'm already counting down the days.
Fantastic. Wow, you're out and about at conferences every week, it seems like at the moment.
Yes, the previous week you will no doubt recall I was at a buyer's agent conference, and actually next week I am going to SFG, the aggregator. I'm going to their annual conference. So I'm rather busy with conferences these days.
Yes, well, it is the season for it, isn't it?
It is indeed. And what have you and your business Leafield been up to over the past week?
Well, as you might have already worked out, today is end of month day. So yes, busy with that. Everyone likes to get paid on the first business day of the month. Not just our business, but all of the owners get paid on today. After we've taken out all of the expenses for their outgoings, like their council rates, water rates, maybe strata fees if they're a strata property, and any other bills that they'd like us to pay on their behalf for their investment properties. And that's what we do at Leafield, being a national property management business, working across 5 states, and we're leasing properties all the time. So been a busy month with leasing as always, and looking forward to another month. Before we know it, it'll be the end of the year. So there you go. But Nick, have you brought us some news this week?
I have indeed. We've got 3 interesting stories. The first one is inflation escapes from RBA's target range. The latest inflation data has been released and it was bad news on multiple fronts. The annual headline inflation rate rose from 2.1% in the June quarter to 3.2% in the September quarter. The annual trimmed mean rate rose from 2.7 to 3%. And the quarterly inflation rate came in at 1.2% on a headline basis and 1% on a trim mean basis. Economist Stephen Koukoulas said part of the reason inflation had risen was due to the ending of government subsidies for electricity and childcare. He also said that while the inflation result was, quote, unambiguously a concern, it was too early to say if it was just a short-term spike or the start of a trend towards higher inflation. Regardless, he said there was now no chance of further rate cuts this year. Quote, the RBA are clearly on hold. That was a shocking result. I didn't see it coming and I don't think anybody seriously saw it coming. Okay, Owen, inflation had been within the RBA's target range of 2 to 3% for 4 consecutive quarters, but it's now escaped that range. Do you think the September inflation result was a one-off shock and that will return to the target range next quarter? Or do you think this higher inflation is going to linger for a while?
I think, there's a good chance it will linger for a little while. And remember, we've been the last couple of months we've been picking that this could have happened, because when you look at the September quarter from last year's figures, that was very, very low. So and the inflation figures for the last 3 quarters had been trending up further. So we could see that this large increase was due to hit us. But everyone seemed to be surprised, except for us, Nick. I mean, geez, yeah, it's couldn't be that difficult to see, could it? If we could see it. So yeah, not really surprising. And I mean, it was probably a bigger jump than we were all expecting. That was definite. And yes, it takes it just out of the ideal range, which means yes, we're unlikely to see any more rate cuts.
Do you think this inflation that we've got now, do you think it's going to be sticky, to use the terminology I hate? Are we going to have to put up with this higher inflation for longer?
Well, hope not. And that's looking into my crystal ball. It's because that's what it seems like everyone else is doing at the moment. Yeah, we've got property market being pushed along by government incentives. So everyone's quite buoyant from that point of view. So that everyone's feeling quite positive about the economy. So they're out there spending. And of course, we've got a lot more, bigger population in the country now. So there's a lot more disposable income due to the higher population. But as we've seen before, that doesn't necessarily turn into a positive result for individuals. And so there's enough people out there spending on discretionary items. And from reports that I saw, that's what they're most concerned about, discretionary spending. So people enjoying themselves. You're not supposed to, apparently, when you have a few dollars to your name. So yes, we'll just have to wait and see, I think, Nick.
Well, I've got the memo. I'm a very boring person. If only the rest of Australia was like me.
Well, that's something I think about quite often, Nick. Yeah, why aren't more people like Nick?
Yes, very good point. I think we'll have to reflect on that and maybe answer the question in a future episode. Now, you said a minute or two ago that we can rule out rate cuts in the final 2 meetings of the year, which are occurring tomorrow on November 4, and then the final RBA Monetary Policy Board meeting, the decision will come out on December 9. So we're ruling out a rate cut, but what about a rate rise?
Probably too early to say. I think the RBA would definitely want to wait for another quarter to see what inflation is doing at that stage. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. We're talking about the RBA. What about the federal government? Should they be doing anything in response to this increase in inflation?
Oh, federal government could do lots of things, but yeah, they're just off having fun.
I thought we weren't meant to be having fun.
Oh well, yeah, that's us, the poor plebs that are just working hard. But the government, no, they're off having fun, spending lots of money, so that they can say that they're doing their job of keeping the economy going. But at the same time, that's fueling inflation and keeping that going. So yes, this government doesn't seem like they're willing to inflict any necessary pain. Maybe they need to get some inspiration from one of their former colleagues from the 80s, where he clearly said this was a recession that had to
have.
happen. Yes.
But
So not that we want to necessarily go into a recession, but unfortunately, a little bit of pain needs to happen. But yes, I think the government's more concerned about making sure that everyone's happy with money in their pocket and at the cost of the long-term economy.
So if I've understood correctly, you're saying the government needs to make meaningful spending cuts, even if that slows the economy and risks causing a recession.
Yes. Well, again, we never want to have a recession. But yes, we might need to. The government is the number one thing they can do is cut their own spending to be able to, yes, help slow the economy so that we can stop fueling inflation.
I'm not trying to talk myself up here, but if I was running the joint, I'd just be slashing left, right, and center. I'm very happy making unpopular decisions. I've got this friend, and she she owns a home, and she's got this garage that is just full of stuff. I've known her for 3 years, and every time I see her, she goes on and on about how she's trying to empty the garage, and she spends all her spare time in this garage trying to empty it. And whenever I ask her what she's doing, she always tells me how much progress she's making, but nothing ever seems to come out of this garage. And I keep saying to her, just give me the keys. I will get rid of everything for you. There will be nothing left. I can easily solve this problem. So as you can see, Owen, I am someone who is capable of slashing. I just need to be given the opportunity to slash.
Okay, Nick. Well, we will take that under an advisement, and maybe we'll keep the blowtorch away from you for the time being.
Okay, well
Yeah.
let's move on to our second
And maybe
story.
some hair
And
scissors. Maybe some hair scissors to do the cutting.
uh, yeah, look, cutting, burning, whatever it takes.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, what else? What else is in the news?
Well, we've been talking about the federal Labor government. Let's move on to the Victorian Labor government.
Cool.
Victoria unveils what it calls the biggest planning shake-up in decades. Victoria has introduced a new planning bill into Parliament that is all about, quote, bringing Victoria's old-fashioned NIMBY planning laws into the modern era. The new bill has three parts. First, approvals will be issued more quickly than the current average of 140 days. Under the existing Act, most projects go through the same process, whether they're single homes or apartment blocks. Under the new Act, there will be three separate pathways, so simple projects don't get stuck in the same queue as major developments. The new approvals timeline is expected to be 10 days for houses and duplexes, 30 days for townhouses and low-rise developments, 60 days for larger apartment buildings. Second, it will become harder for people to appeal against development. Planning permits for homes, duplexes, townhouses and low-rise apartments will require no notice and have no third-party appeals. For higher density apartments, only those who are directly impacted, like neighbours, will get notice and be able to appeal. And third, it will become easier for councils and the state government to update local planning rules, such as fixing zoning boundaries and adjusting local policies. Owen, I am very keen to get your thoughts. What do you think of these changes?
They sound pretty good, Nick. It's
Mm.
only what we've been asking for how many years? Yeah, everyone kept on harping on about all these other problems that were apparently causing the housing crisis. And everyone else was saying, no, it's all about the red tape that is causing the delays. And now they seem to be fixing it. I know New South Wales government, I think we
Labor
reported on it.
government?
Yes, it ended up coming out with some fixes that look pretty good. Now the Victorian government is coming out with some fixes that, don't look too bad either. So
Mm.
good to
So you're a
see
fan
that,
of
yeah, if
you're
you
a fan of
finally,
the New South Wales Labor government and the Victorian Labor government. Is there something you want to tell us about your preferred political party? I'm noticing a pattern here.
yeah, no, well, yeah, I give credit where credit is due, Nick. And yeah, even if it takes, years of trying to, smash someone's head against the wall to get it through to them of what should be done. If it finally happens that it gets through, then great. I'll give them credit where it's where it's due. But the biggest problem is the fact that it's all very, very late in the piece. We needed this years ago, and we could have maybe been able to solve a lot of the problems that we have today that everyone keeps on blaming on all these other reasons that are just irrelevant and non-existent.
So your good mates in the Victorian Labor Party, they say they're bringing Victoria's old-fashioned NIMBY planning laws into the modern era. Do we, as a country, need to shift from a NIMBY mindset where we look for reasons to say no to development to a YIMBY mindset where we look for reasons to say yes?
Yes, of course we do. If we want to grow our economy, if we want to grow our population base, which to have the first, you need the latter, then yes, we need to look at how we can develop our cities, especially our major cities, a lot more. And so we need to be able to control the process of approving these developments. And otherwise, everything's going to be held up in red tape, and it just makes everything more expensive. And one of the reasons why property is so expensive is because of all of the government compliance that is required. And the time that it takes. So all that cost has to go into the building process. So yeah.
Okay, so you're calling on us to develop a YIMBY mindset. Does that mean that we have to accept that Australia's future is living in denser cities with fewer houses and more apartment blocks?
Yeah, absolutely. If we want our population to grow, then yes, we need to do that. And that is the simplest and cheapest answer to the problem. And if you don't like that solution, then it's maybe time for a change. It's if it's affecting you directly in terms of where you're living, then yeah, I can understand if you're pretty happy where you live right now and what it's like, then yes, but unfortunately, the there's only one guarantee in life, and that's change. Change is going to happen always. So apart from death and taxes.
Death, taxes, and change. I like that.
Yes.
I just had a thought as you were talking about my friend's garage problem and Australia's housing supply problem. What if I was to petition local council to turn her garage into an apartment block? It seems like we're going to solve two problems with one.
Well, I think the Victorian government had the plan of actually taxing you if you had a 3-bedroom house and there was only 1 or 2 residents in that house. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't unveil something further about that in this release.
Well, for our final story, Owen, let's shift from Melbourne to Sydney. Sydney closing in on property milestone. Half of Sydney buyers will soon need at least $2 million if they want to buy a house, according to a new forecast. Sydney's median house price rose 3.4% in the September quarter to reach 1.75 million, according to Domain, and that prompted Domain's Chief of Research and Economics, Nicola Powell, to forecast that Sydney's median house price would reach $2 million in 2027. And for those who don't know, if the median is 2 million, then that means half of houses cost less than 2 million and half of houses cost more. Nicola Powell said it only needs a 14.2% increase, which is about $250,000, to take the median house price to $2 million, and it is a real prospect for 2027, she said. Do you agree with Nicola Powell's prediction, Owen?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't it get there? It's simple maths, and it's not like it's predicted at huge growth. It's just predicting what we've had for the last couple of years. So it's not like it's huge growth that she's predicting. And if it doesn't happen in 2027, then it'll probably happen in 2028.
Okay, so we're getting there sooner or later, you're saying, which I
Yeah.
suppose if we look at historical house price growth, does seem reasonable. If you're a young Sydney family on an average wage, can you realistically aspire to a $2 million house or even a $1.75 million house? Or do you have to reduce your expectations?
You need to reduce your expectations to what you can comfortably afford. And maybe change your expectations of what type of property is going to be your first property. And the hardest thing to do is to get your first property. Now, if that property isn't necessarily going to be the one that you live in, then that's fine. There's no problem with that. But the most important thing is to get on the property ladder, get a foothold and get going. If you really want to own something in Sydney, and then you got to work towards it. And you don't have to live in the property that you don't have to own, the property you live in. And it's you can own something else and rent where you want to live, if that's the case. But if you really want to own something, then change your expectations of where you're going to live. It's why we're so stuck on having to live where we grew up, where we work, where we want to work, and we need to change our minds. Yeah, it's like complaining that the sun gets up every morning in the east. And it's just like, and then it sets, it goes away in the west every night. And it's just like, oh, and then there's the people that complain about the weather. The sun's out, but it's cloudy outside. Can we really? Yeah, when are we going to do something about the weather?
Well,
So let's stop complaining about the weather. Let's stop complaining about the market, and let's just use the wind that blows to go in the direction that we can.
I like that. No one could accuse you of any hot air, by the way. These are all very astute points. Now, I want to run another thing by you, Owen. Unlike some of the other capital cities, Sydney has natural boundaries, which means there's only a finite amount of unused land. As the city keeps expanding, should we expect the share of apartments to increase and the share of houses to decrease? And if so, should we expect that house prices are going to grow significantly faster than unit prices in the decades ahead?
More than likely, yes. I mean, generally that is the case, that house prices grow more than unit prices. But in certain areas, that's not necessarily the case. Where there is a market for apartment living and it is established, then apartment living unit values do increase. So, but in areas where there is a lot of supply, remember that word again, supply, demand. Yeah, if there's a lot of supply, then there won't be as much demand in the short term, so prices won't necessarily increase in the short term. Yes, but that's what you call a market, and we can't necessarily control the market as individuals, but we can change as the markets change and change our tack, change the sail on our boat as the wind blows. So yes, talk to anyone that's been on a yacht and is reliant on the wind, and try asking them about what they do if the wind is not blowing in the right direction that they want. They have to change. They have to change tack to be able to get to where they want to be, which means that they can't necessarily go in a straight line to where they want to get to. So, yeah.
Charles Dickens used to be paid per word. Are you being paid per metaphor?
No, but I'm just trying to use as many ways as possible to get through to people that there's not a conspiracy against them, that, you know, specific people in society aren't trying to tread on them to make sure that they can't get anywhere in life, that they just need to look at different alternatives and make a change that is positive for themselves.
Well, on that note, I thank you very much for your sharp insights, Owen, and I will see you next week.
Thank you, Nick, for bringing the news again, and we will see you all next week.